Okay, so I want to create a distance method, right? So, and this is absent anything else, right? Like I don't have another piece of code here. All I'm trying to do is code a distance method. So, what's the distance method expected to do? Yeah, it should take the distance between 2 points and measure it. Right? You guys all with that? So, what do I expect it to return? Yeah, it's probably going to be a float, right? Float. Distance. What do I expect it to take? 2 x's and 2 y's, all of them are going to be floats, right? So I'm going to do float. I copied and pasted float. So float x1, float y1, float x2, and float y2. That's all good with that? Right, so this is a method that returns a float after taking 4 floats. And in order, those are an xy and an xy. Okay, now this is the part where we have to go back to, like, the Pythagorean theorem or some silly thing. Right? Okay, so how far apart are they in the x direction? So the x distance is x2 minus x1. The y distance is y2 minus y1. And we should note that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Right? So, c squared is what I'm in. Well, the square root of c is what I'm interested in, right? So,
x this equals x2 minus x1. Or, well, you have to declare a float x this.
yeah, so I'd need to make a float. I don't know if I can even do that in here. I assume I can. So probably make this a float, right? What's it going to do if I make that an integer? Yeah, truncate or yell at me, one or the other. Okay, so I made a... Okay. X distance is 0? No, that's not what I wanted. What was the x distance supposed to be? x2 minus x1. That should probably go up here. And then we should copy that, put it under here, change all the x's to y's. Oh yeah, and then declare a y distance. Good call. Okay, so now I got my x distance and my y distance. Oh, I got it twice. Yeah, so there gets to be a little math, right? So the first thing I think I need to do is square the x distance, square the y distance, right? Okay, so I'm going to make something like hypotenuse, okay, which I'm going to say is equal to... Actually, maybe I'll make hypotenuse square. Whoa, that's not how you spell squared. How about squared? So hypotenuse squared is x distance times x distance My guess is I don't have to, but we'll check it with a couple things and see.
I don't know how processing handles order operations.
My guess is that it handles it pretty well. Java handles it pretty well. And I probably should set the hypotenuse squared variable. Why is it yelling at me? What's it complaining about? Doesn't exist because I didn't declare it. Flout. I want to float hypotenuse squared. Oh, I probably should initialize it. Whatever. Okay. And now it's still complaining. What is it complaining? Why is it complaining? Because I'm not returning anything. Right? I need to do more stuff. Because I have hypotenuse squared, right? How do you get the hypotenuse out of that? Okay. Return SQRT, I think.
You can just put hype squared equals square root of those things. You can just put that into one.
Oh, I totally could have. I could have put all this in one. I just wanted to be clear what I was doing with the math.
Oh, okay.
My guess is that people are a little rusty on the Pythagorean theorem. Gee, I don't know. I told you there wasn't going to be much math, and now I'm like, hey, welcome to algebra class. Let's find the distance between 2 points and code it in. So, what I want you to get, right, is that this thing took these 4 variables, did some math to it, and now it's going to return the distance between those points. If I run this, what is it going to do?
It's not going to display anything. It's not even going to call the method, so it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, it's not going to do anything. At all. Right? Because I don't have anything that's being called. Right? I just made this method. It's not yelling at me for errors, right? But if I push go, all it's going to do is make that default window. Right? It's not going to draw anything in there because there's nothing to draw. Right? Okay, so if I wanted it to actually do something with this, like how do I test if my method works?
Draw a window, draw a circle, apply a vector to it, follow its initial parameters.
Okay, that's probably a lot harder than what I was thinking. I was just going to do this. So, I'm going to make a setup method. Oh, God. Actually, you know what? I have another processing window open. I'm going to go steal the setup method out of that one. Oops, wrong thing. Because I haven't saved anything, so I don't have file names. Okay, so. Okay, so what are you going to call the distance method with? Oops, that's not how you... So, to call the distance method, right, you say distance. And, hey, look at that. It's cool. It's even telling us, right, even for a method I declared, it's telling me what it expects in there. It's like, dude, you need to pass some floats to this thing. So, the floats I'm going to pass it are going to be 0, 0, and... yeah, I'm going to pass it mouse X and mouse, oops, that's not how you spell mouse. Okay, so now what should this do? Yeah, it'll calculate the distance from 0, 0 to where your mouse is. But you didn't tell it to do anything with that. Right? So it's doing that calculation in the background here. But it's not actually outputting it anywhere. So where do you want it to output? Yeah, sure. You could just print it in the command line. So print line, what do I want to print? Yeah, you want to print that whole thing, right? So you want this whole thing in the print line. So, oh yeah, and it's annoyed because, you see why it's annoyed? Yeah, there's a semicolon in the print line command, and it is not appreciative of that. Yeah, sure. You can make a method call itself even if you want. I'll show you one of those in a couple of days. That's a good way to draw fractals. Yeah. It is generally believed to be bad coding to have a method call itself, because it really does lead quite easily to infinite loops, which is why we did that batch file thing the first day, right? Like, recursion is a really good way to make batch file fork attack kind of things happen, but it can be a really fun way to get cool stuff to be drawn. So now what do I expect this to do? And then print it, right? And so this is calling the print line method on the result of calling the distance method. Uh-oh. Oh, yeah. Why is it only...
Maybe we should have a draw where we...
You guys see what's going on?
That way it doesn't...
Yeah, it's not looping, right? So it did that once when I executed it. Right, when I first started, it gave me 0, 0. Because my mouse wasn't in the window. You guys see that? So I want to actually get that thing to call a bunch of times. So I want to do that in void draw. And that's where I want that print line. Was I having a like coding error? Was I looking for a mistake in the code there? No, it was doing exactly what you intend or what you told it to do. It's just good at following directions. Hey, there we go. Let's see. So this window was, how wide was this window? I would be expecting this to return 800 right here. So the window's not pulled all the way up. There we go. There's your problem.
So that's how I use the window is.
You guys see that?
That's how I can fix the clicking.
That's how you can fix the clicking on the corners on crowballs. Also, it should be noted that I have fully wasted your time here because dist is a native method in here. And it does the exact same thing.
Did you realize that, or were you just finding time?
No, I knew that. So I wanted to show you guys an easy example, and I wanted you to note that when you're writing a method like this, you should probably go and think about whether someone else did that already. So also, please note in here, right, in the distance method, I did actually call another method. Where did I call another method as I was writing the distance method? Yeah, actually, the return is kind of a method, but what else is there that's... Yeah, the square root is actually a method. You guys see that? Return's kind of a command, right? But square root here is actually a method. And then processing is a little weird because square root really feels like it should be a function, right? What's the difference between a function and a method? You know this? Ben, you got this one?
I'm sure I do. It's not coming to my head at the moment. I'm sorry.
Okay, so a function is something that takes inputs, returns output, maybe outputs, and isn't part of an object. A method is a function that is part of an object. Now, processing itself is an object in Java. So all of the things that look like functions, like the square root, that would by all rights be a function. But it's actually calling processing dot square root, which is a method. Right? Everything in processing is a part of them. Like all the commands in there are methods. And the reason they're all methods is that processing is itself a Java object. That distinction is totally esoteric and totally unnecessary for the scope of this course.
Basically, it's attached to an object. It's a method. It's not.
Yeah. So like C, like regular C, doesn't have any methods because it doesn't have any objects. Java really only does objects, so it basically only has methods. Processing definitely only does objects, so it only has methods. Other languages like Python, that distinction becomes important because there are both functions and objects. And it's important to know whether you're trying to call something that's attached to an object or whether you're just calling something that like lives in the ether of the language. You guys cool with that? The square root should by all rights be a function, but because processing's weird, it's a method. Cool? Questions, things? Oh, should we try that with the distance in there and see if it works the same way? My print line's calling dist. So you can fix your grow balls with just the dist command. Cool? Questions, thanks?